Hello and good evening everyone. My name is Jayant and this is my new YouTube channel where I'm hoping to bring some new fitness content uh, in the near future. But before that, I thought of reviewing a few contests that took place this weekend at Mr. Olympia. Today we'll be reviewing the first call out of men's open prejudging contest. So stay tuned and let's get started with the video. So we are starting off with some front double biceps. From left to right, we have Samson Lauda, Brandon Curry, Eddie Chupin, Derek Lunsford, Nick Walker, and the reigning champ, Big Ramy. So what's interesting this year is that 4 out of 6 competitors are pulling off a vacuum pose. Um, well, if I look into it, I think Big Ramy is taking this pose. His biceps are big and peaky. The conditioning is on point. The quads are helping with making an excellent X frame, and the waist is tight for someone over 300 pounds. So I think Ramy takes the first place in this pose. After that, I would rather give it to either Brandon Curry, Eddie Chupin, or Derek Lunsford. My problem with Brandon is that his legs are not that built and my eyes are just getting drawn towards Eddie. Derek is nice. Derek looks a little soft. I think he didn't put enough posing oil on his arms, but otherwise has an excellent structure. The X-frame is nice. The legs are peeled. Everything is fantastic. But my eyes keep going towards Harry for some reason. I mean, the reason is obvious. He has the best abs, the best midsection out of all 6 of them. His lats are popping out really nicely. He's getting a really nice X-frame. Even though his biceps are a little small, like his arms are a little small, uh, but the overall package that he's bringing here is absolutely fantastic. And I think I would put Hadi in the second place here. After that, I have to take a pick between Derek Lunsford and Brandon Kane. If we are going body part for body part, I think Derek's arms are comparable with Brandon's arms, but I like Derek's chest and his midsection. He's pulling off a vacuum. Derek has got better legs, so I guess I will put Derek in third place with Brandon a close fourth. And after that, I would put Nick Walker and then Samson Dowda. So the only reason why Nick is placing fifth is because compared to all of the first four uh, picks, he has the widest waist and his midsection looks a little washed out. But other than that, he looks fantastic. He has good conditioning, a good chest, big arms, peakier biceps, some really nice forearms, and nice capped calves also. Um, Samson places last cause he is looking a little soft. That's it, and the competition is immense. So that's it. Otherwise, he looks really great in his own right. But that's it for the front double biceps. Big Ramy placed ahead. After that, it was Hadi, then Derek, then Brandon, then Nick, and then Samson. Okay, so moving on to front lat spread, I would place Nick the last cause his midsection looks the worst. After that, I would have to put Samson. Yeah, he has a nice X frame, but his midsection looks a little washed out. He has no details through his abdominals and his quads. Also, he looks a little soft through his chest and delts. All of the remaining four look amazing. I would put Heidi in the first place for all that extra detail through his chest and quads and abs. After that, it's Brandon. He forms a terrific X-frame, and his arms and chest are just thick and full. So, yeah, after Heidi, it's Brandon. The only thing that made him place second was Heidi superior abdominal development, like and quad development. After that, it's either Derek or Ramy. Um, Derek fills out the frame very nicely and has nice separation in his quads, but Ramy just outmuscles him in this pose. His chest is fuller, quads are better and has weight factor also. But when Rami hits this variation of the pose, I think Derek easily pulls ahead. So for this, the call out is something like um, Hadi Chupin, then Brandon Curry, then a toss up between Derek or Rami. After that, it's Samson and Nick at last. Here inside chest, they all look impressive, but my eyes are drawn towards Rami. That quad sweep and hamstring drop is insane. His delts are capped, and his chest is full and thick. He just needs to fine tune it by rotating a little bit to show his width like Samson is doing there on the left. After that, it's close between Samson, Brandon, and Harry. Harry's arms, which often look quite small, are looking nice in this pose. They look big. Between Samson and Brandon, while Brandon is more conditioned, his chest is showing striations, his shoulders are better, his arms are looking big, and it is just the lower body that holds him back. On the other hand, Samson's chest is wider, his arms are a slight bigger, and his delts are a little smaller compared to Brandon's. I would go with Brandon in this pose for that striations through his chest and a little more details through his abdominals. After that, I would go with Samson probably, and then after that, it's between Hadi and Nick, so I would put Hadi above Nick. Hadi has better chest, better abdominals, his abs and his core look tight in this pose. While Nick is bigger from his shoulders, his arms are big, his legs are bigger from the side. I would personally go with Hadi for all that extra detail and keeping the core tight. Uh, After that, I would put Nick, and I have to put Derek in last year. Derek is looking great through the lower body. His glute ham tied is really nice and crisp. It's separated, but he lacks hamstring drop, and his upper body looks a little soft, especially that front chest, which looks a little flat at the bottom. So for that reasons, I have to put Derek at last. Um, after seeing this second picture, I would say it is close between Nick and Derek, but for all the reasons I just gave, I would still put Nick above Derek. Now coming to ab and thigh, we all know this is Hadi's pose. He has the best abs in the lineup, a really nice lat flare, and big striated quads. And on top of that, as you can see in this picture, he also pulls off a vacuum pose. So he has to get some bonus point for that. After that, it's close between Derek and Brandon. Brandon has better conditioning than Derek, but his legs are holding him a little back. But still, I would give it to Brandon because he has a nice set of abs, a tight waist, and a really nice lat flare. After Brandon, I would put Derek. Derek also has a nice set of abs. His quads are big and separated, so that combined with his lat flare gives him a really nice X frame. So I would put Hadi, then Brandon, then Derek. After that, I would go with Rami because as you can see, he also has a really nice lat flare. His conditioning is good, and his quads are obviously the best of the bunch. So after that, I would go with Rami, and then after Rami, I would go with Nick. Nick has really symmetrical abs, blocky, and they're thick. The only problem with Nick is his lat flare is not that good, and his waist is a little big, so that gives him a cylindrical look, which is not that great. But then again, he is better conditioned than Samson, and his legs also look a little more diced. So it's Nick, and after Nick, that after Nick, I would give this pose to Samson. So how I would place them is Addy in first, then Brandon, then Derek, then Rami, then Nick, and Samson will be the last one. When they turn around in back double biceps, I can see this pose going for Derek. His back is thick, dry, his shoulders are capped, and you can see all kinds of details in his arms, lower lats, lower back, glutes, and hamstrings. Um, After that, it is close between Brandon and Hattie. Brandon beats Hattie in the upper body, while Hattie beats Brandon in the lower body. Uh, I would personally give this pose to Hattie because his lower body looks a whole lot sharper and bigger, and their backs don't have that big of a difference. Hattie's back looks a little washed out um, in the bottom part, but then again, the details of Brandon's back is also not visible properly. So I would give it to Hattie and then Brandon. After that, I have to give it to Nick. His biceps look really nice from the back. He has that peak situation going on. His lats are not the widest, but they are dry, and his legs are peeled, and they are big also. So his legs and glutes and hamstrings are all peeled and big. So after Brandon, I would probably give it to Nick, and after Nick, I have to give it to Samson. Because Hardy is not Hardy, Rami is missing details through his hamstrings, and he is missing more or less his lower back. So even though Samson is not that condition, I'll still have to give it to Samson, and I have to put Rami in last. In rear lat spread, this is an easy win for Hardy. He had brought up he has brought up his back really well in this past few years. He is wide and his low lats insert really low. His lower lats insert really low. The glutes are peeled and the hamstrings look great. After that, I would have to give it to Derek. Brandon was close, but Derek has much more density to his muscles. He has better capped shoulders and way too much detail through his lats. The lower lats are comparable as you can see in this picture, but the legs are what put Derek ahead of Brandon. His legs are also bigger, his glutes are defined, hamstrings have all those razor sharp cuts going through. So for all those reasons, I have to put Derek in front of Brandon. After Brandon, it is Rami because Rami is wider than Samson. It's not apparent in this picture, but Rami is wider than Samson. So after Brandon, it's Rami, then Samson, and I have to place Nick last in this lineup because his back looks a little underwhelming compared to all of these pros. In most muscular, out of the four of them on the left, I am giving the post to Samson because he is the biggest guy in the lineup, though Hadi is the most conditioned. Um, Samson has more or Samsung is not that far off, and the only thing is that his delts look a little smaller compared to those arms, but otherwise he looks terrific. He has the width factor, he has a good chest, a good thick chest. You can see some striations going on, a really nice tricep sweep, nice biceps, overall big arms. You can see a faded midsection. It's not that faded, but the lower abs are a little faded. But still he takes this pose. After that, I would probably go with Hadi for all the extra detail to his chest and abs, and the striations through the legs and chest as well. Moving on to this next pick, we have Hadi, Nick, and Rami in hands on hip variation, and Derek is hitting the crab pose, while Samson sticks with his hands clasped variation. As you can tell, this picture is not doing Rami any justice, cause as you know, he's almost 5'9", but he looks more or less like Derek's height. So I guess they're cheating the line or the camera angle is just off. Um, if you keep that in mind, I'd say it's a toss-up between Rami and Samson. Uh, cause Rami is running away with the lower body while Samson is filling the frame more effectively with his upper body. Rami is drier, more conditioned than Samson, but Samson has that 3D effect going on through his arms. So it's pretty close. But I had give it to Rami because that's how judges work. They favor conditioning more than just mass. Given if I give it a second thought, Rami's arms look the worst of the bunch here. It might just be the camera angle, but he has no tricep sweeps on both arms, and his biceps also look a little worn off. But I'd still put Rami in first and Samson in second. After that, it would be Nick or Derek. Um, Nick looks really nice in these hands and hands on hip variation. Derek looks a little flat, so I would go with Nick, and after that I would go with Derek. Moving on to the next pick, here in Crab from the guys on the left, I am going with Brandon this time because the legs are almost out of the equation. So it's all a game of upper bodies here, and as we know, Brandon's tough to beat in his upper body. He has comparable mass through abs with Samson. He has striations, but he has striations through his chest. His delts are bigger, and his waist is tighter. So I would go with Brandon in this pose. After that, it becomes subjective. If you prefer conditioning over mass, then you can't go wrong with Hadi. But if you prefer mass while giving up a little bit of conditioning, then it's Samson. It's pretty tough for me to decide because I like both of them. So I leave it up to you guys to figure it out. So you can tell me in comments who you prefer more, and who would you put on top between the two of them. After that, it's Derek easily for me. Rami, uh, it's Derek easily because he looks a little flat and there is no separation through his shoulders and arms, but he looks better than the other two of them. He looks better than Nick and Rami. So Rami's arms got downsized a little bit while Nick is not facing the camera head on. So in this pose, I would place Brandon. Then it's a toss up between Samson and Addy. After that, it's Derek, then Nick, and then Remy. Here we are seeing an upright crab pose from Hadi and a similar pose from Nick, um, and a hands on hip from both Derek and Remy. Nick looks a little weird in this pose. He's keeping his hands a little bit low. If only he had hold his hands a little bit up and hit it more like Hadi, he would fare a lot better. I like Derek in this pose cause it highlights his tiny waist, big quads, big chest, and delts. And he also has a good sweep through his triceps, and he has nice abdominals. So yeah, this is the pose. Derek should hit this pose for his most muscular. It highlights all his strengths while minimizing his flatness through the chest. So here I am most impressed by Hadi. He came in full and conditioned like always. Brandon was more or less the same. Nick improved a little bit from his last appearance, and Derek is doing really good for his first time appearance in Men's Open. Rami disappointed everybody a little bit. He missed his mark, and that is going to cost him a little. As far as it goes for Samson, his conditioning is off, but he has all that extra mass to hang with these guys, and he will probably get a good placing in this show. So that's it from my side on the prejudging video. I'll pretty soon put the finals video on the channel. So stay tuned for that. And until then, take care.